In this workshop, we're going to talk about 5 steps in establishing a fee-based model for nonprofit organization. 5 steps in establishing a fee-based model for nonprofit organization. Because whether or not you are a profit or a nonprofit, you are considered a small business. However, there is a difference, and the difference is that nonprofits come with more restrictions than a profit entity, because nonprofit organizations, also referred to as NPOs, struggle with securing unrestricted income to support the programs and the services they provide. Unrestricted income is therefore very valuable for the sustainability of NPOs in order for their programs to continue from years to come. One way to overcome this is to establish a fee-for-service program. And the fee-for-service program is just that, a fee-based structure for nonprofits can be a major source of funding or help with supplemental unrestricted dollars to fund and support the programs that the nonprofit has. And they can be lifesavers. Hi, my name is Dr. Sonia Ricketts Stinson, and I serve as the founding CEO of a nonprofit in Chicago, now celebrating over 30 years of providing services to individuals who are homeless. And we have several fee-for-service programs, because in the nonprofit community, the term fee-for-service is described as various models of earning income in exchange for services or in exchange for products. In exchange for services or in exchange for products. The fee-for-service, also known as B2B, is a model that can be established by NPOs and used to earn unrestricted income to support, again, the mission and the services that are provided by the nonprofit. Now, while there are some tax-related considerations to be researched, the results are that the fee-based model can become a great revenue generator for nonprofits, and those dollars are unrestricted. So today, you may have some questions. The questions may be, what are the steps to take to developing a fee-for-service or contractual agreement? Here are some of the questions that you might entertain. What is my organization's expertise? What do we do well? What services do we provide that have value in our community? What can we target for our services and our fee for services? What partners would benefit from providing or having access to our services? Those are some of the questions that you might want to ask as you consider a fee for service program or a model. So in this workshop, we're going to cover 5 basic steps. Now, they're not all of the steps, but we're going to cover 5 basic steps on how to consider, start, or begin to think about starting a fee-for-service model in the nonprofit that either you serve in, you are the CEO, or you are a director. As a CEO, I will tell you that there are more benefits to having a fee-for-service model than there are not. So let us begin. First, in this workshop, we will cover 5 simple steps, as I said earlier, and it is the value of nonprofits establishing a fee-based service model. It also is number 2 is what's meant by fee for service for NPOs. Third is how to develop a fee-for-service structure for your nonprofit. And then always considering pricing. What is our pricing consideration? And finally, how do we develop a fee-based model for our nonprofit? So those are the 5 steps that we're going to cover in this workshop. Are you ready? Do you have your pencils and your papers? Let's go. So what is the first one? The value of an NPO starting a fee-for-service program. What is the value? Well, fee-for-service is just what it sounds like. It is that you get the opportunity to charge a fee for some specific services that you are offering. So it is just what it sounds like. It is a fee that you as a nonprofit can charge in return for the services that you offer. Fee-for-service structure, you can adopt, or could be something as simple as charging a set rate per unit for services. And so what I give you as an example of that is that if you are thinking about starting a fee-for-service program, you can simply say per unit of service, this is our cost. We're going to get to who you would market this fee-for-service program to, but just think about some of the services that you could charge for. First, you have to know what your expertise is. What does your nonprofit do well that you believe that you can develop a fee-based service model? I know that there's something that your nonprofit do very well. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to tell you what we did. We had several fee-for-service programs. Some worked and some didn't. Now, next, is there a market for your service? That is a very important. Is there a market for your service? One of the things that I talked in one of my presentations is that you have to do market research. You have to know that there's a market for your fee-based service. You don't want to establish a fee-based service if there's not a market for it. So when you begin to talk with your board and your key staff about establishing a fee-based service, you want to definitely identify the market in which you're going to be able to market as fee-for-service. And the income can be never ending. What we discovered in our fee-for-service programs that we have at our organization is that the fee-for-service program is never ending. And what I love about it is that it's also unrestricted dollars. And as I said earlier, it's income that comes to you. It's income that you can use for your programs. It's income that comes with no restrictions. It's income that no one controls as to how it's being spent or how it can be spent but you. There are not many strings attached to a fee-for-service program directly for NPOs. That means that fee-for-service programs can be used to offset your budget. And that is so important. Where you have a program or a fee-for-service program where you can use it to offset your budget. We know that many funders, many foundations, many government funders, many states, they have quite a bit of restrictions on how you can spend your dollars. And oftentimes the sustainability of a nonprofit organization that has not considered a fee-for-service program can cause them not to remain open. So what does a fee-for-service program do for you? It can offset your budget. It can also pay for those expenses that other grants will not pay for. I said it in a workshop. It can pay for things as administrative costs, where many of the programs that you have to have some type of administration attached to it. And many of the foundations and the government grants and the state grants limited your amount or your percentage as to how much you can charge. However, it still does not negate that you have to have and do an audit. You have to have administrative staff. So one thing about the fee for service program or the model is that it can be used to offset your budget. Often those dollars are unrestricted, and that's what we talk about. Unrestricted dollars is very good for the sustainability of a nonprofit organization. And you need to keep that in mind as you begin to even think about or plan to develop a fee for service model. So no matter the fee based service model that you establish, the value for the NPOs can be a game changer. Let me say that again. The value for the NPOs, nonprofit organization, when you are able to establish a fee for service model, can be a game changer. It can change the game of how you are able to sustain and the sustainability of the nonprofit. So it's something that you can consider. And when it comes to changing the game, those fee for service unrestricted dollars come directly to you. So you have carte blanche, if I can say it, over how those dollars can be used and how they can be spent. So consider that a fee for a service model. And again, it changes the game. It is a part of sustainability. Now, although there are some disadvantages that NPOs must and should be aware of, and you should be considerate of those disadvantages, especially when it comes to taxable revenue. But we're not going to go into all of that today because that is definitely more than a 30 or 40-minute workshop. But be aware of the disadvantages. When you do establish a fee for service program, make sure that you have the legal expertise where as you begin to think about a model that you will charge, that you have consulted with your legal advisors, and also you want to also possibly talk with your funders to determine if they have any feedback or concern if you do establish a fee for service model. Now, so let's secondly talk a little bit about the disadvantages of a fee for service for NPOs or nonprofit organizations. Well, as I mentioned, even though there are NPO advantages, and I believe the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, there are also disadvantages that I want you to be aware of. First, they may require additional fiscal oversight. So just because you have a fee-for-service program does not mean that you escape the fiscal responsibility of running a fee-for-service program or a model. Let me say that again. There may be additional fiscal oversight when you decide to establish a fee-for-service model, or as I refer to as a B2B, which is a business-to-business model for nonprofit. So you do not escape any fiscal responsibilities when it comes to building a fee-for-service model. For NPOs, you must be and ensure that your profits not become liabilities, that your profits do not become liability. And let me give you an example of that. My example is that if you are profiting $35,000, but you have an administrator that you have to pay $35,000, that does not really help the nonprofit. It may be more of a liability because you need a fiscal control within there. So NPOs must also understand that you must examine your liability. And another disadvantage is NPOs must keep abreast of the regulations that your funders or your foundations or your government, so it will avoid you from losing the funding that you have. So you must keep abreast of any regulations. There may be foundations or government grants or corporate grants that say that we don't agree with you having a fee-for-service model Or could you think of having a fee for service model in this way? So a disadvantage is that you want to make sure, let me put it this way, that you've done your homework, that you have talked with legal, you've sought legal advice, and you understand some of the regulations when it comes to a fee for service program. Also, one of the disadvantages, fee for service programs come with a marketing cost. So how will you market the fee for service? So again, you have to think about the cost, the marketing, the administration. All of that has to be built in to your fee for service program, because it's not that you're just going to collect service fees for the services that you give, but you also are going to have some costs. So you want to be very conscious of the burden of your costs. Is it time consuming? Is it too time consuming? Let me give you an example. One of the examples that I can give you is that in the organization that I served at, we had a fee for service program that was very, very costly. Manpowers, man hours, staff, frustration, just a whole gamut. And we had to make, but the money looked lucrative. The money looked very good. But after doing it for several years, we discovered that it really was not a good fit for the organization. And we quickly discontinued the fee for service program because it was not beneficial. In other words, the program had become a liability instead of an asset. So you have to be very careful when you're doing a fee for service program that program does not become a liability. It must be an asset. Also, oftentimes, charging participants directly might cause you not to them not to seek out your services. So when you are looking at a fee for service program, and if that program is going to charge the participants that you service, you might want to be very careful as to how you structure that fee for service program. Also, another disadvantage is it requires you to keep abreast of the regulations for your funders. This is a key. You must keep abreast of the regulations that the funders have when you develop a fee for service program. And lastly, one of the disadvantages that I believe is you must consider your market cost, your market cost, because there will be some market costs involved if you decide to develop a fee for service program. Now, so those are some of the disadvantages that I wanted to share with you. You may have to, one of the ones that I really want to touch on is that when you develop a fee for service program, you may have to become a bill collector, because let's face it, some people think because you are a nonprofit that you are terrible, and they believe that they should not have to pay you. So you have to also build that in as a disadvantage, because becoming a bill collector also is staff time, is also your time, is also, and you may end up losing some relationships. And so those are some of the disadvantages. You want to consider these disadvantages when you begin to think outside the box for a fee for service program. But a major disadvantage is the additional work on you and your staff and your accounting department. That is a major setback. Fee for service program, as I have done it and we continue to do it, is a major taxing on your staff. And so you have to be prepared for that additional staff in accounting, the additional staff in other departments, that to ensure that your fee for service program will be successful. Again, that is not a liability, but a fee for service program, a model, should be an asset. That asset should be bringing you income that's unrestricted. When it becomes a liability, you might want to rethink your model or rethink what services you want to offer. So those are some of the disadvantages that I wanted to share with you, that when you develop a fee for service program, that there are advantages. But I believe that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. And we continue to manage a fee-for-service program. In fact, in 2022, our strategic planning is going to build another fee-for-service program that we have researched and believe that it will be income producing service that we can get. So the organization that I work for, we do have one. We had more than one. However, we understood that one was a liability, and we did make a decision, and it was a hard decision, a very difficult decision to discontinue that program. So those are some of the disadvantages when you begin to think about doing a fee-for-service program. And let me hurry on for number three. Number three, I just want you to consider what the fee-for-service program will bring you, because number three is also very, very important as you begin. So the third one is you want to ask yourself, who might we market our services to? So again, we're back to marketing. So it's not just establishing a fee-for-service model or a fee-for-service program, but you also got to think about, how do we market the services? What services do we market? It goes back to number one, what is your expertise? What is your expertise? Because you have to determine, who will you market your fee-for-service program or model to? And when you in conversations and structuring a fee-for-service program, marketing is the key. Programs is a key. You have to develop a strategic plan. The plan will help you to design and determine what are some of the key areas, what key board members need to be involved, what other stakeholders need to be involved, what contributors you need in order for it to be successful. And let me stop here and say, most of the time, when you're developing a fee-for-service program, you might want to have a separate board of directors or a separate group of individuals who also helps to monitor the fee-for-service program that reports back to the board. Like I said, there's so many opportunities out here for fee-for-service program, and I cannot cover them all in this one workshop. But I will let you know that in the fee-for-service program, you want it to be long-term. So you don't want to start a fee-for program and it's not long-term. So you want to know why you need the fee-for-service program. What is the purpose of it? How do we market it? What is the strategic plan of it? How are the profits, or how will the profits be used? What would be the oversight? Who would be the oversight? How would that oversight be reported to the board? What would be our customer base? All of those strategies is important as you want to keep in mind as you begin to look at a fee-for-service program. Those are things that you want to keep in mind. So as you begin to develop it, you want to ask the question, your expertise, but then next, look at the disadvantages, and then next, who will we market it to? Who's our customer base? You want to have all of that in place as you begin to look at establishing a fee-for-service program. So what is included in who you can market to? Courts. So I asked a question to our board and to our strategic planning, who can we market at? Court system, to schools. There's so many opportunities when an NPO, a nonprofit, can develop a fee-for-service program, can offer. You can have trainings, you can have resume writing, you can have substance abuse program. But the question becomes again, who will you market it to? That is a key question. As a fee-for-service program, you can market to your school systems. You can be consultants in the expertise that your nonprofit has. But you have to know, even before you start the fee-for-service program, that who you will market it to, because there's no need of starting a program and you really don't have a market plan in place. I cannot say that enough. You really don't need a fee-for-service program if you do not have a market plan in first. Let me give you an example of a fee-for-service program that we have here in the state that I live in. We have the food depository. We don't do Sanitation Certification. They are a nonprofit organization. They do food service certification. And we send our kitchen staff or our food service staff to be trained because everyone has to have a food service certificate to work in our food service area. So we have to pay another nonprofit to train our staff. That is an example of a fee for service program that another nonprofit has that I, as a nonprofit program, send my staff to, but I pay a small nominal fee. That's an example of a fee for service program. You may have a literacy program. You may have a job readiness program. You may have a domestic violence program. Those are examples of fee for service programs that nonprofits can set up and charge for. So when you think about your expertise, what is your expertise as you began to start or think about developing a fee for service program? But remember, it goes back to your expertise. It goes back to what do you do well and what do you believe that someone will pay for your services. Never forget that. So don't limit yourself for your fee for service program to NPOs. Go out to corporate individuals. If you have an expertise that they're seeking, then you can market your fee for service program to those individuals, such as corporate. So our fourth for fee for service program that I want to share with you today is that pricing. Pricing is so very important. So how do you develop pricing? Well, there are several ways that we have developed pricing. And one way has been we have done it on a scale depending on the income of the individual. That is for the in-house programs that we have. So you want to ensure that you're priced right, but that you're not underpriced and that you're not overpriced. Very, very important that you're not underpriced and you're not overpriced. So your scale system, your fee system according to income, according to your client's income, or you might want to say we charge a flat fee for this or a flat fee for this. But there are different prices for different services that you can charge. So it doesn't always have to be one flat fee. So that's number four. And the final one is number 5, developing a fee for model for NPOs. Here is our 5th one. Even if the NPO decides to develop a fee-based model, how do you begin? Well, first, let me give you some advice that I've got. Recognize the community that you're in. Know and recognize the community that you're in. Know your expertise. Have a strategic plan in place. Recognize who will be your customer base. Recognize how you get the fee-based model started. What I would suggest is that you start small. You do not start large. NPOs must approach this exactly the way they would approach it for a profit business. Because as I said, a fee for program is one that is a B2B, is a business to business. So you have to develop a market plan. I cannot drive that home even more. You have to develop a market plan. You cannot just say, my nonprofit wants to do fee for service and we're going to do it. No, it doesn't work that way. When you develop a fee for service model, you need to have a market plan. You need to know who you're going to market to. I always say you need to know your why. It cannot just be about we need more income. Because if you do it just because you need more income, your fee-based service program most likely will not last. So you need to have a strategy in place. You might want to do a strategic plan around the timeline that you develop a fee for service program. But you don't want to do it haphazardly because you want that program to last. Because who wants to put in all of that work and then have to close it a few years later. So you must have a marketing plan. That's the number 5. Also, you must have reasonable pricing. If you're priced out of the market, then you cannot expect everyone or anyone to come for you. And let me give you one more tip. That maybe be the 6th tip. Also determine what your competition is. I said that early in a couple of workshops. Know what your competition is. That's because when you do your market research, you don't want to have a fee for service program that someone and another nonprofit that you actually support is doing. So do your research, find the niche or find the market opportunities within that, and then develop your program, your fee-based program. Again, it is a good opportunity to raise unrestricted dollars. It is a good opportunity for you to have the necessary income where you can pay administration, you can pay for upkeep, you can pay for new computers, you can pay for so many other things that unrestricted dollars are able to pay for, where restricted dollars are not. But you do want to know and do your research. You don't want to duplicate, because if they're happy with the clients, that with the services that they get, it's most likely that they will not switch. So as we close, there's so many ways that you can think about developing a fee-based service program or a B2B, business to business, for a nonprofit. We only touched the surface of how to develop it, but I will encourage you as a nonprofit executive for the last 30 years to develop it or begin the dialogue, to begin to talk about it, because government dollars and all the foundations, everybody's going after the same dollars. And you have to have a strategy. You have to have a strategy in place. What I suggest that you do, and as you develop it, if this is a desire of you, is to do focus groups to determine the need for a fee-based program in your community. So one of the suggestions or one of the advice that I give you is, before you develop this model, do a focus group. Focus group with your staff, with your participants, with some of your funders. Do a focus group and let them know that you want to start a fee-based service program and you want to get their thoughts and their ideas. Also, you want to develop a timeline and a plan as to when you want to start this. Most of the time, it does not start right away. Just because it's on a strategic planning paper does not mean that you're ready to start. Give yourself time to start that program. And then you want to also determine your target area. As you develop this fee for service program or B2B, you want to know your target. It cannot always just be your participants or the customers that you serve. Who else can you market your expertise to? Who else can you? So this has been an overall brief summary of how to establish a fee for service for your nonprofit organization. There is so much more that can be done, but what I will say to you is that it has been a very great opportunity for the organization that I serve as the CEO, and it doesn't come without struggles. As I close, let me say this to you. It doesn't come without struggles. So be prepared for the ups and the downs when you develop a fee-for-service program. I am Dr. Sonia Ricketts Stinson, and I am the founding CEO of a nonprofit in Chicago, and I have served that nonprofit for over 30 years. If you want to learn more about me and some of the programs that I offer, you can just go to my website at www.soniastinsonministries.org, and I will be glad to connect with you and talk with you more about how to develop a fee for service program. Now, when you go to my website, there are some other courses that I am going to be offering for nonprofit executives and nonprofit staff. And also, there is an ebook that I have that you can download up until September 20th, which is named Leading with Intention. You can download that ebook if you go to my website at www.soniastinsonministries.org. I hope that this workshop has helped you as you begin to think about the model of developing a fee for service, or B2B model, for the nonprofit that you now serve in. Have a great day. Bye-bye.